revisit our top story now. In fact, it's the global big story of the Panama Paper leaks. One of the names that had been mentioned by the Indian Express today in what it calls its expose is of KP Singh of DLF. Let's get you DLF's point of view. Joining us for that is Rajeev Talwar, from the Executive Director of DLF. Thanks, Mr. Talwar, for joining us on CNBC TV 18. I've read what KP Singh and DLF have had to say to the Indian Express. What I want to ask you more about is that this bank account with $10 million in it, it has been reported to all of the relevant legal authorities and tax authorities in India?
You're very correct. In fact, we find it extremely distressing that there has been a report which alleges no wrongdoing at all, and it seeks to impact public perception, even when all the rules and regulations of the country have been followed to the last detail. It is very kind of Indian Express to mention the response that yes, all the remittances were made after and in due compliance with all rules and regulations from 2004, each year under the limit set by the LRS scheme, and each one of them was made through banks which are the authorized dealers. More than that, each one of them was not only informed to the income tax, but they were also put in the balance sheet. Therefore, we are quite certain that when all rules and regulations have been followed, no wrongdoing has been alleged by the newspaper itself and the report, then why was such a report published, which can impact public perception?
I'm going to read out to you from the Indian Express. Internal files of MF accessed by the Indian Express show that the real estate baron has been described as a politically exposed person by Mossack Fonseca and Company Limited, the registered agent for Singh's offshore entity called Wilder Limited. Singh has been the Honorary Consul General of Monaco in Delhi since October 1990 and credited by GE's former chairman and CEO Jack Welch for having initiated the Global Corporations India entry. How do you react to this part of the what came out in the newspaper?
I think as far as the kudos to Mr. KP Singh, we're very grateful to them for recording that, but they should have also recorded that he is one person and this is one family which has followed all rules and regulations of the government of India. They've not committed any violation at all. And in fact, you'd be surprised to know, I'm sure, that there exists a treaty between Britain and India, that all these companies which are registered in the British Virgin Islands and not Panama, as a perception might be held, are duly informed to the income tax authorities every year. So we've been following all rules and regulations, and therefore it becomes distressing to note that there can be a report which gives the impression which is wrong. So we hope that, yes,
and
through
can
your
you
good
share with
offices,
us why?
right.
And can you share with us at all that why these offshore entities were set up in the first place, why Mr. KP Singh and his wife held shares in these bank accounts in these companies?
I'm sure you will appreciate that investments made by private individuals are entitled to confidentiality if there is no hint or any allegation of wrongdoing. So I think we should respect that.
And you have been declaring these bank accounts from the very start, Mr. Talwar? Since the time they were set up?
That's in the response itself. As you can see it, it's even been published in the newspaper that not only have these been declared, they've also been declared to the income tax. And I'm sure that the banks through which the remittances were made, as permitted by Government of India and RBI, have been duly informing the authorities also. So there's multiple channels of information which have gone back to the Government of India, the Income Tax Department and the RBI on this account. They've been informed regularly each year.
So, you know, besides Mr. KP Singh, the Indian Express report has also talked about the Vice Chairman, Mr. Rajeev Singh, his sister PR Singh, and the family members setting up bank accounts since, I think, 2010, if I'm not mistaken. It's called the Alpha Investments Global Limited, an offshore company registered in BVI, with PR Singh, her husband, Dheeraj Timmy Singh, and their children, Jai Sarna and Tara Singh Sarna, as shareholders. What are the reactions to this? Have you been reporting this to the tax authorities, to the legal authorities?
Absolutely. You know that it's true. We've even stated that. Mr. KP Singh has stated that in his response, and he has said it holds good for all family members. I'm sure you're reading it out aloud from the report itself, which is there in the newspaper. So, to that extent, it also damages somebody's standing, and to that extent, it is totally uncalled for.
Okay, so in a nutshell, you're basically saying that all the members of the promoter family made remittances within the legal amount, and that they have been reporting this to the Indian tax authorities as well. Is that the law, that they have to report them to the Indian tax authorities?
Absolutely correct. It's been reported to every forum in the government of India as is called for, and not only that, it has been done strictly in compliance of all rules and regulations of the government of India, of the RBI, and FEMA, as well as income tax.
So was this just clever tax planning, like intelligent tax planning?
I am not going beyond this report itself.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Talwar, for joining us here on CNBC TV 18 and clarifying the stance on behalf of the family as well as DLF. So that's Rajeev Talwar, Executive Director to the board of DLF, saying there has been no wrongdoing. All the remittances that have been made by the promoter family, that includes the chairman, the vice chairman, and other promoter family members, has been within the legal amount, and that all the accounts have been declared to the tax authorities back here in the country.